Black Myth Wukong is an action-adventure game that has exploded since its release. It's a game of Chinese cultural mythology, greatly inspired by the classical novel Journey to the West, and documents the future exploits of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King and Great Sage equal to heaven, and the nameless Destined One's attempt to reclaim his legacy, which takes players on a grand adventure through the mystical, unclaimed wilds of ancient China, compelled by strong narratives. This is a literary analysis of Black Myth Wukong. In this video, we'll discuss three foundational sections that function as an inverse pyramid and point to the essence of the game: the setting, the story, and the soul, as well as techniques and elements that support it and how all combine to truly create an epic in Black Myth. Nothing happens nowhere. The setting for Black Myth Wukong is taken from its inspiration Journey to the West, and catapults players into the center of ancient, mythical China, where they must confront gods and demons, assist fantastical shape-shifting creatures, and banish obsessive spirits. This is a land of myth and magic where natural and unnatural, fact and fiction are seamlessly interwoven to lay the foundation for a unique world, begging us to explore its furthest steps for untold lore. Black Myth's setting can best be described in two words: stunning and grand. The game takes the player through various independent environments across China and the Indian subcontinent, each with their own unique atmosphere, signature climate, and beings. The thickets of Blackwind Mountain hide wolf demons and haunting spirits. The dry air of Yellowwind Ridge casts all in dust, while gales howl and stones come alive. Meanwhile, nothing moves in the frozen stillness of the New West, which contrasts greatly with the molten, energetic peaks of Flaming Mountain. The locations are unique, but all united in presenting an image of China's fantastical and remote wilds. Journey to the West is steeped in religion and philosophy. Both Buddhism and Taoism are ubiquitous throughout Black Myth Wukong, not just in story, but also setting and imagery. Temples adorn peaks or termination points along woodland paths. Buddhist statues stand solemn, and imagery appears on reliefs along cave walls. Arms and armors are blazoned with scripture or forged to embody divinity. Such impressive structures and beings, drawn from religious lore, are quite literally larger than life. If on our side, they fill us with hope. If they stand against us, they fill us with hopeless dread. Gargantuas and forces of nature we can't defeat. Most creatures met along our journey are yaoguais. This is a blanket term meant to represent spirits and entities possessed of supernatural ability. It often translates to demon or devil, but many yaoguais aren't malevolent, more akin to fae folk in Western lore. Black Myth abounds with references and Easter eggs that tie it to its source material. Too many to compile into a list, but there are several significant callbacks that make their way into the game through characters, mechanics, or setting. The 81 achievements are an homage to the original 81 tribulations faced by the Tong monk and Sun Wukong through Journey to the West. The Destined One's ability to see through enemy attacks in particular stances refers to the Great Sage's supernatural sight that allowed him to see through illusions and darkness. Most all of the named characters or yaoguai bosses appeared in some form or another within the novel, and the Destined One retraces the Tong monk's journey in the locations it visits. All of this does well to pay respect to the source material, and to infuse Black Myth's setting with an aura of rediscovered legend. The game's physical world building is complemented by informational world building held within the Destined One's journal. The journal documents the yaoguais vanquished and the characters met along the journey through small vignettes that inject life into the greater setting. Here, we learn the tragic fates of villages and villagers. We discover how yaoguais came to be and why they hold aggression. And light is cast on the heartrending stories of disgraced individuals. These tales and their accompanying portraits allow our minds to wander, conjuring up myths of ancient China as respite from our harsh travels. But even a great setting can fall flat if not paired with powerful narratives.
All I ever wanted was a life in my mountain, free from you and your so-called merits.
Though Black Myth Wukong is deeply inspired by the Journey to the West novel, it isn't beholden to the 16th century classic and quickly establishes its own complex narrative. For one, Black Myth unfolds far into the future, more than 500 years after the monk Sanzang returns and Sun Wukong attains Buddhahood. Additionally, Black Myth follows a what-if style of distant events that offers an alternative reality to the novel, in which many individuals and thematic elements inhabit a darker, muddled realm, where evil is just as powerful as good, and things are hardly cast in black or white. The story of Black Myth is threefold. One line follows the great sage's struggle for freedom from the gods. Sun Wukong, despite his Buddhahood, is still imprisoned by the golden headband, for the gods fear and mistrust him. His story is one of legacy and liberation as he plots in secret to remove the headband, to escape the cycle of karma and reincarnation.
That headband has always been on your head.
Keep those eyes wide open. Watch me rip it off and break free.
Another line follows the schemes of Eastern and Western heaven, hid largely in subtext as they conflict with one another for spiritual dominance. Theirs is a story of influence and control. The celestial beings work through mortal pawns to empower their designs and care little for the lives lost in the process. The third line explodes where these two intersect and follows the Destined One's own voyage into realms uncharted to test fate and claim destiny. This is a story of worth, improvement, adversity, and enlightenment, and it's the primary story followed throughout Black Myth. The Destined One, a nameless and voiceless monkey, embarks from Mount Huaguo at the behest of an elderly sage to fulfill its purpose. It must set out to acquire the 5 senses of the great sage, plus a mysterious and hidden 6th sense, scattered upon his death and now in possession of 5 dangerous Yaoguai kings. The senses physically manifest in magically charged relics beholden only to the inheritor of Wukong. As the Destined One gathers these relics, it assumes its role as Wukong's reincarnation. Black Myth's story is structured in 6 chapters, each affiliated with a particular relic, entwined with the schemes of the Yaoguai kings. In the first chapter, the Destined One traverses Black Wind Mountain and fights the Black Bear Guai to gather the Craving Eyes relic. Chapter 2 brings the monkey to Yellowwind Ridge, where the Yellowwind Sage struggles to control the power of the Fuming Ears, another of the great sage's senses. Then, in the New West, the deceptive Yellowbrow uses the hubris nose to fuel his own religion. On Yellowflower Mountain, the 100-eyed Taoist master attempts to gain immortality through the Envious Tongue relic, before he is brought low by the Destined One. Chapter 5 sees the monkey confront the Bull Demon King on a flaming mountain to acquire the last great sense in the Grieved Body relic. All of these Yaoguai appeared as antagonists in Journey to the West, but have since forged their futures in the wake of Sanzang's sojourn. Nevertheless, it's a great recurring element that connects Black Myth to its source material. Each chapter is supplemented by a beautiful and detailed tapestry, narrated by the old monkey sage, that further expands upon the stories of the characters met, how the Destined One's journey mirrors Wukong's journey west, and completely immerses the player in ancient China's mythological folklore.
You reach the Forgotten Kingdom at the end of the land? Did you find the clash of stones and the fall of Tiger's acolyte?
The Destined One's journey follows the general outline of a quest. It must overcome obstacles and resist temptations to acquire the great sage's relics. Each Yaoguai king not only represents physical challenge, but also embodies an allegorical lesson to be learned from their pitiful state. Only by gathering both can the Destined One truly accomplish Sun Wukong's goal. The stories of Sun Wukong and the Heavenly Realm are less conspicuous. Each chapter has a corresponding short film meant to solidify core messages, elaborate on motives or backstories, and illuminate different perspectives. It's in the short films of Chapter 5 and the hidden ending, told mostly in flashback, where Sun Wukong's plan is revealed.
Now I see. For someone like me. Staying alive is enough to be a transgression.
He knew that so long as he lived, the Celestial Court would demand his death, and Western Heaven would control him through the golden headband. Freedom required the great sage to suffer death and rebirth. Wukong conspired in secret with Erlang Shen to stage his defeat. Erlang would then gift the senses to the Yaoguai kings to test the worthiness of Wukong's reincarnation, while Erlang himself retained the great sage's mind, his hidden sixth sense. The Heavenly Realm's story of influence and control, meanwhile, is told mostly through dialogue between various immortals and Buddhas, as well as in the journal portraits. The Celestial Realm is quite cold, calculating, and nefarious. Each hopes to influence events for their gain. Eastern Heaven to prevent Wukong's return. Western Heaven to control the great sage's reincarnation. Both these stories require close scrutiny to reveal. They are hidden in foreshadowing, in flashbacks, and in ambiguous lines, I think to intentionally confuse the Destined One, as the gods try to prevent the monkey from inheriting Sun Wukong's legacy. It's Wukong's mind, in essence his soul, that is the key for his true resurrection. After the Destined One is granted the sage's memories, it's enlightened to Heaven's selfish and dark ways, as well as Wukong's plan, offering it a chance to break from the golden headband, break from fate, and reforge its destiny. This choice is represented in the two possible game endings. The first sees the Destined One oblivious to Heaven's true motives and Wukong's secret plan. In its ignorance, it dons the golden headband and seals its fate. The second sees Sun Wukong reborn. In possession of his memories, the Destined One sees through manipulation and refuses the headband. On a whole, one word best encapsulates the stories of Black Myth Wukong: tragic. Black Myth's narrative is filled with tragedy, which contrasts against the game's vibrant landscapes. Many lesser and greater Yaoguais are subject to flaws that lead ultimately to their undoing or corruption. The Great Sage's senses represent power beyond comprehension, and the Yaoguai King's desires to wield such power destroys them. Sun Wukong himself is tragically flawed, possessing a reckless personality unbecoming of Buddhahood, as well as an ambition for freedom that marks him as a heavenly transgressor. Nearly every demon, immortal, and Buddha in Black Myth embodies melancholic suffering. They are signposts to ensure the Destined One doesn't stray from its intended path. So the Destined One has acquired Sun Wukong's relics, has fought his lingering obsession, and claimed his title, either to bear his punishment or liberate itself from the golden headband. But what's the point? Despite being a beautiful game that immerses the player in Chinese folklore through gripping stories and masterful combat, Black Myth makes several moral and thematic assertions. The first is power and its danger. Power is a recurring element. The Destined One seeks power to prove itself as Wukong's inheritor. The gods seek power to maintain their supremacy. The Yaoguai kings seek power to elevate themselves. But just as power can promote good, so too can it twist to evil purposes. And not only that, but its desirability alone is enough to corrupt. This is most apparent in the Yaoguai king's gifted Wukong senses. These relics represent power. The Yellow-Wind Sage, Yellowbrow, and the Hundred-Eyed Taoist Master are exemplars of its insidious threat. The sage beheaded his own master Lingji in an attempt to wield the fuming ears and free himself from the gods. Yellowbrow used the hubris nose to deceive others into his worship, and the Taoist sought immortality through the envious tongue. But these relics hold power beyond control, and it's through their blind grasping that the Yaoguai kings are ultimately vanquished. In Sun Wukong 2, we see power's corruption. The Great Sage is a nearly unstoppable force possessed of immeasurable strength. When this is paired with an equally tempestuous personality, the result is cataclysmic, hence the donning of the golden headband following Wukong's havoc in heaven. Wukong is symbolic of power unconstrained and highlights the need for control. In Journey to the West, it requires an arduous sojourn of self-realization and letting go that Monkey King can free himself from its influence. Normally, we think of gods as divine beings whose word is law, whose character is unyielding, and whose will is unimpeachable. But this is far from what we find in Black myth. Instead, we have two heavenly pantheons that have fallen to infighting. We have deities that share human passions and obsessions. These immortals are deceptive. They use their religion and disciples to further their own ambitions, often to the detriment of many. The gods are merciless. They destroy entire civilizations, such as the lost kingdom of Sahali. They bestow clemency only when it benefits them. Black myth offers a conflicting perspective on the religious pluralism presented in Journey to the West. The novel highlights how the religious and philosophical teachings of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism can coexist in harmony, often overlapping in their imperatives. In the novel, Buddha states that the sutras the Tang monk acquires aren't merely the mirror of Buddhism, but also the source and origin of all three religions. This cooperation is replicated in real life, where traditional Chinese folk religion is an amalgamation of the three schools. The subtextual struggle between Eastern and Western heaven throughout Black myth disagrees. It depicts two pantheons of deities that not only care little for the mortals caught in their schemes, but strike at one another from shadow to secure divine primacy. Journey to the West is often interpreted as a political satire and scathing indictment of its contemporary governmental bureaucracy. The celestial court in heaven mirrors the elaborate Chinese imperial machine, so bound by regulations and hierarchy that it can actually affect very little. The Jade Emperor's court is a hotbed of intrigue and blame, where immortals bicker amongst themselves for personal gain. They are concerned with formalities and precedent. They have flurries of agents or officials indirectly enforcing their aims, which often leads to confusion. Though this is less present in Black myth, we do have an image of the heavens riven by infighting. Deities care so much about their own position and station that they are blind to the suffering of mortals beneath them or the schemes of their disciples. Each god claims supremacy over their role, even though many of these overlap. We see a pantheon of contention rather than cooperation that is so numerous in its members it's bogged by inertia. Not exactly an image that inspires faith or devotion.
Destiny is written in what's done. What's done shapes what's to come, not escape.
So, there really is something even you cannot read.
Is one's fate truly written? Is this a world of predetermination? If so, do one's actions really matter? These are questions Black myth Wukong attempts to answer in Sun Wukong's personal struggle for freedom. It's a struggle based in Buddhist beliefs of karma and reincarnation. Though there is a quality of destiny and unavoidable suffering as a soul goes through cycles of reincarnation, they can improve their karma through actions, eventually culminating in a release towards full spiritual awakening. The cyclical pattern of rebirth and suffering is what the great sage wishes to free himself from, an enslavement in his eyes, symbolized in the golden headband. This object represents a higher destiny that denies free will. If he can rid himself of it, he can break the cycle. And destiny is a theme that runs deep within Black myth. The name Destined One suggests a form of predetermined inevitability. Several characters are sages and gods who divine the future, read fate, but it does leave room for the unexpected. Black myth's reality is a universe of predetermination that can be influenced by free will. Humility is a critical theme in Journey to the West, especially for the Monkey King. Sun Wukong's early life, full of havoc, led to a 500-year prison sentence in which he was truly humbled. And during the course of the novel, Sun Wukong's ego, recklessness, and aggression must constantly be tamed by the voice of reason in Tan Sangzang. The need for humility is broadcast through Black myth's narrative in the dark ambitions possessed by many characters. Yellowbrow styled himself superior, created a religious cult in his image, and reached for godhood. But his hubris was ultimately his undoing, and he suffered defeat at the Destined One's hand, hence the name of his relic, the Hubris Nose. So too we see the ambition of the hundred-eyed Taoist master in his quest for immortality and desire to reach the celestial court. His hunger drove him to deceive and cull hundreds of souls to fuel his rise, transforming them into Yaoguais and harvesting their essence. In the Yellow Wind Sage, we see the ambition for vengeance manifest in the decapitation of his master's head and his subsequent desire to rid himself of gods. What these tragic characters have in common is a yearning to reach beyond their means, to elevate themselves above their station and grasp for power rather than embrace a humble existence. This leads only to disquiet and ruin. These are only a few of the many complex moral and ethical concepts presented throughout Black Myth Wukong's themes. I appreciate the support and hope you enjoyed this literary analysis. Let me know your thoughts on Black Myth and its deeper lessons, what you'd like to contribute to the discussion, as well as suggestions for future videos in the comments below. See you in the next one.